Thank you so much.
Hi.
Hi.
So nice to see all of you here, even though it's raining. So hopefully most of you won't get too wet.
And hopefully it will stop raining.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting us here. First time in Russia, first time in Moscow for both of us. We came yesterday and we have already met some brilliant people and are very impressed by this place as well. So really happy to be here.
So should we get the presentation started there? Kajsa is now the technician.
Yeah, let's see how that goes.
I will let her handle this.
Okay, control it. It did well.
Good.
So welcome to this talk about Malmö and about Mink and media evolution. We have named this the Malmö model. We're going to tell you a little bit more about Malmö and try to give you some tips and tricks on how we work, because we have been pretty successful in what we are doing. But first, who are we? Emma, who are you?
Yeah, so I've been working for quite many years in Sweden with the development of the creative industries and the creative sectors in different cities and in different places. But actually, 10 years ago, I moved to Malmö because of this job that was founding what was to become Media Evolution. And Media Evolution is now what we in Sweden define as a cluster, which is really a community, member-based organization where we bring different people and companies together that are working in the digital industries and also in other sectors connected to the digitization that we see is very much happening within Sweden right now. We connect all of these companies to each other, but also to the public sector and to the universities. And we enable them to move forward together, to innovate together, and to transform in the digital industries.
Yes, and I work for a company called Mink. I'm going to tell you just after this about Mink. I've been one of the founders of Mink 14 years ago. Mink is a company owned by the municipality, and we are there to create growth, to create a better environment for people, for young people actually, to move to Malmö, get new jobs or start companies. So we work very cross-sectoral. What we look at is growth potential, and we have different kind of ways of doing that. But that's where that's what I've been doing for 14 years. And before that, I have a very broad background as a journalist and an entrepreneur.
So what we're going to share with you today is not so much who we are, but we're going to talk a bit about Mink and Media Evolution, what we do, why we do that, what we want to enable. And then in the end, we're going to get down to what I think you're eager to hear about. How have we succeeded and what it is we do? And we think that has got a lot to do how we do it. So we're going to share with you the ways of working that we call now the Malmö model.
Yes, and what is Malmö then? Is anybody here been to Malmö? Well, there are a few people. Wow. Yeah, and you have been to Malmö. And so Malmö is a very small city. It's located right on the south tip of Sweden. Closer to Copenhagen than to any other Swedish big city. So we are connected to Copenhagen with a bridge today. But this was Malmö 1986, and that's not very long ago. But in this area, both Mink, my company that I work for, and Media Evolution are located today. But this is what it used to look like. And when I walk around here today, when we had lunch, I could actually see that it reminds me a little bit about the area here. It used to be something else. It's old industrial buildings, factories closing down. In Malmö, it used to be the shipyards. It was a big shipyard industry with a lot of people who worked within that, and it all fell down in the mid-'80s. And created some kind of chaos in Malmö. So Malmö was probably one of the most depressing cities to live in the 90s. I moved to Malmö in 1991, and it was the worst time. But it was very cheap to find somewhere to live, and it was very close to the university in Lund. And sometimes chaotic places can create really, a good atmosphere, because you can kind of do a little bit of everything. You can be very creative. And that's what started to happen in Malmö in the 90s. So from this is also from 1986 actually. It looks like it's a picture from the 50s, but it's not. To this. This is the new kind of workers. These are the people I work with today. They are located at Mink. But it's another crowd that has moved into the area, just exactly like here. I mean, I look at you and I see you're the same people as they are. So a little bit about the history, how it happened. Of course, it's all about politics. In this case, it was a lot of strong politicians, and it was a strong force on the top that decided to change Malmö with all different kind of in all different kind of ways. So changing the structure, the infrastructure, creating a city-based university that attracted a lot of young people, but also like building the bridge connecting Malmö to Copenhagen, one of the major cities in Europe, was a really big thing for the area. But it's also, of course, about new technologies that people are actually able to build companies in a new way today. So today Malmö is filled up with a lot of small and medium-sized companies and not very many large companies like it was before. So there is a big sector today within the creative industries, within the media industry, but also like in the service sector, IT companies are a big provider of jobs today. But also there is a lot of entrepreneurs. A lot of people don't want to be employed anymore. I would say it's kind of like a lifestyle, but in Malmö it seems like there is a lot of people that choose that way of living. They don't want to have a boss. They want to do their own thing. So this happened 2014. Malmö was ranked as number 4 on the list of the world's most innovative cities. Before us was Eindhoven, was San Diego, San Francisco, and then Malmö. This was like everybody kind of lost their face when this came out, from being that terrible place with not so many knowledge-based companies to this. But what enabled this was the whole crowd within all the universities in the region. So beside Malmö, who has a university with 26,000 students today in the city. There is also Lund's University, one of the largest universities in Sweden. And we also have all the universities in Copenhagen, where people actually go to study, but some of them actually live in Malmö, because Malmö is somehow a little bit different to live in. Some people can afford to live in Malmö, but not in Copenhagen. And the lifestyle in Malmö is also a little bit easier. So a lot of students go to schools in Copenhagen, but when they are out of school, they start their companies or start working in Malmö.
And also I think what has enabled Malmö to grow and become this innovative city, which is, I mean, it's amazing to be compared with San Francisco and those kind of cities, is really that we were in that depression. It was really, really bad in Malmö, and we still have the sense that it has been so bad that we need to move forward. We need to develop things. We need to be more innovative. So we have always tried to have that as a foundation of everything we do. So it's still in our mindset, you could say, that we just want to make things better. We just want to develop and be more innovative and find new ways of working. So it's really a culture in the city that has enabled us going from that depression into this, and it's still going on, so we're still not finished.
You could say it's a kind of like an underdog perspective that we will always have, I think, being a small city on the edge, and also have been in the really deep depression. So today, what Malmö's population, it's a very small city compared to Moscow, where we are right now. It's 320,000 people live in Malmö today. But the interesting thing here is that the population today is 50% of the population is under 35 years old, which makes it a very, very young crowd. It's a lot of young people. We also have a really big part of immigrants. And I know that, well, some people see that Malmö has kind of like an integration problem because there is a lot of immigrants, more than in any other place in Sweden, actually. But if you look at it in a larger perspective and for the future, this means that Malmö has a very young population, very well-educated population, but also very multicultural. That attracts a lot of companies that are looking for, people with other perspectives, other languages. I think all languages in the world are spoken in Malmö today, which is quite amazing. So right now we're trying to use this we turn it around. It's not a problem. It can be a benefit for the future. But the very young population is, of course, very important. And just... here it says that 20,000 people commute every day to Copenhagen. We have a train running back and forth, so it's not a very big problem to commute. So why are we attracting a lot of young people to Malmö today? I think one of the reasons is that it's still accessible to find a place to live, which is not the case in all big cities today. Like in Stockholm, the capital, or in Copenhagen, it's really expensive and it's really hard to find a place to live. So either if you're a big company looking for young people to hire, can be hard, because even if you can pay them like salary and you have a job, you can't really find a place to live. It's really hard today. But in Malmö, it's not as big of a problem, although it's not like it's empty apartments everywhere, but you can still find an affordable place to stay. And the same comes to if you want to locate your company, if you want to start up, it's also very easy to find a co-working space. It's also very easy to find a good spot to work from. But also the vibrant cultural life. It's attracting a lot of people, and that has to do with different things. Like this weekend, just before I came here, there was a big, the World Championship in skateboarding took place in Malmö. There was like thousands of people coming from all over the world for 1 week, and the Vans are the sponsor behind that. They built a new park that was... so things like that happen, and that attracts a lot of young people to Malmö today. That was just to give you a broader picture of Malmö, like the city that we come from. And I'm going to move into MINC, changing perspective a little bit. So MINC stands for Malmö Incubator. And it was founded 14 years ago, 2002, by the municipality of Malmö. And we are still a company that is 100% owned by the municipality. That means we are non-profit, and we are 100% funded by the city. We also have some funding from national programs, incubator programs, and accelerator programs. But we're non-profit, and that's very important for us. And this differs a little bit from other incubators and accelerators and places like ours in Sweden, and I think in the rest of Europe actually, because usually there are some investors that are involved that are taking shares in new ideas, or there is developers trying to find new companies to their facilities. But this is not the case here. So our only goal is to get more people to start companies and teach people a little bit about how to grow their companies, and to make Malmö a more attractive city for startups to grow from. And when we started, as you hear, the name says it all. It says Malmö Incubator, and that's what we thought we were going to do. We thought we were going to do an incubator program for the rest of the life. But that's not the case. Today we are more becoming a hub. So the programs that we are running, now we're running a lot of different programs. It's not the most important things anymore. It's the thinking of being a hub, a meeting place, a center for people that are interested in entrepreneurships, in startups, in creativity or new innovation, to get them to actually learn more and to take the step to actually start a company. That's what we are aiming at more and more today. So today, we turned this around actually. So we started off with having an incubator program. That was the most important of all. But then we decided to open up. So 14 years, a lot of things have happened. I have to tell you that we have changed a lot during the years. And we have had some really, really tough times. When the companies we worked with was not very successful. And when the city didn't want to give us funding anymore because we didn't really, we couldn't really track down if we were, they couldn't really find how to measure our success. So we have been working a lot with this, but what happened a few years ago, we decided to change everything around and to work more on the hub thinking and open up a lot more, to reach out to a lot more people, not just the ones who were going to become superstar entrepreneurs, but to more people, and also to get more creative people into the building. So today we have a lot of different events, and we have open seminars. We have a lot of hackathons within different kind of areas. We have everything from tech hackathons to music hackathons, gaming hackathons, and all different things. The thing is with the event parts that we are not doing that ourselves. So we have a quite big building, not as big as this, I think, maybe around this size, maybe as Strelka, but it looks a little bit different. But so the first floor, we opened up that totally. So it's only an event space, but it's also a free co-working space. So events on the first floor and free co-working space that we call Startup Lab on the second floor. And then on the top, we have added different kind of programs that we are iterating and developing over time. But the events, we go out and we talk to the communities and we talk to people that come to us and we ask them what it is they want to do. So they come with the ideas and they can use the space we have to create events like this, or to do a hackathon, or to gather people and have a Java competition, things like that. So if it is a subject that is something about entrepreneurship, innovation, creativity, and it's open, it's free, and we can invite everybody, then they can do it in our place. So a lot of people are coming to Mink, not for starting up companies today, but to just learn something about these different kind of subjects. A little bit like you here tonight, I would say. This is open, it's free. And the startup labs, in the different programs that we are running, so we have different kind of selection processes. You have to fill out, you have to show that you have a team, you have to show that there is a growth potential, how to get investments and everything like that. But there was a whole lot of ideas that were really good, but they were just too early. And we had to say no, but we knew that they had nowhere else to go. They had to work at home from their basements or working from cafes. A lot of people do that. Then we decided, why don't we become a cafe? But it's free. So today we have the whole first floor with around 100 open office spaces. We have a coffee machine that runs all the time, and we have free Wi-Fi. So that's what we were spotting. So what do people need to actually, start up? You need coffee, you need Wi-Fi, and you need other smart people around you. You should not sit in your basement and do your startup. Because then you just believe your own ideas and things like that. So just getting people to actually meet was a really big step for us. And that also, we could see that we increased the number of applicants to all our programs tremendously. So a lot of people actually now are doing applications for the programs. In the incubator program that we are running, 12 months today, we have 34 companies we had last month. It's a 12-month program, but we have over 150 applicants that apply yearly to the program. And we have an accelerator program that is for web startups. We have a special program for game startups. We have had a design incubation program. So we have different kind of programs. But what we see here is that that's something that we have to iterate and be very flexible about. So we don't know what the future will look like. And we don't know what kind of sector or discipline that will be the next big one. So that's why we have set up a base for everybody who wants to be an entrepreneur. And then we see what happens. Yeah, the meetings, of course. If you do a thing like that, you really believe in people to meet. So meetings, creativity. Also not just letting entrepreneurs and startups meet. It's very important that they also meet the people with the money. Investors, business angels, that they meet people like my colleagues that are business developers that could maybe give them some good advice. But also that they meet researchers, meet people from the academia. So what's very important for us is to be neutral. This is the platform, this is the place where you can come and we won't judge you. And other people can come with, to find each other, to be a neutral platform for academia, investments, and for startups. That's what we do today. So just one case, so you kind of understand what we are doing. These are Therese and Anna, co-founders of a company called Hövding. They came to Mink straight out of Technical University in Lund, maybe 8 years ago now. And they had this idea of creating a new kind of bicycle helmet. In Malmö, people bike a lot. It's very convenient. And we have a lot of bicycle paths, but also it's so trendy. It's a lifestyle. People don't want to own a car. You could go by bike anywhere. It's a small city, so it's very convenient to go by bikes. But the security is a problem. So they were doing research at the university about why people are not wearing bicycle helmets. And the answer is it was quite surprisingly to hear that it was because of the hairstyles. Like, if you want to bike to work, you don't want to have a messy hair. And also that it's very ugly. So it's very, egoistic things that came up. So they looked at different kind of alternatives to not wear anything on your head. And what they came up with was very innovative. It was this. It's the invisible bicycle helmet. It's a collar. You kind of snap it on. It's just like a dragkedja. A zipper. Yeah, it's a zipper, and you snap it on. And it's like some kind of very technical solution with an airbag technique inside. So if you lose control of your body, the airbag will inflate over your head. It's a patent. It's patented all over the world today. It's on international markets, and they have won almost every design and innovation competition around the world today. It's a growing company. I think they have 30 people employed today, growing in the same area as we are, but they are not longer a part of us. But what's important here is that the two founders are actually within our network still, that they are now mentors, that they can now help out other entrepreneurs, and especially within the design business. So it's very important for us to keep that community and to keep letting people help other people. So that's just one of the cases. We have a lot of design companies that we work with. Now I have to put down my mic because I want to show you just a 3-minute movie about Mink and Malmö, and then Emma is going to continue to talk about media evolution.
Mink to me is a hub, it's a gathering place. It's a place where interesting people come to.
It's big enough for there to be companies that get famous, that get investments, that get sold to companies like Apple. Then it's small enough for people to at least have the feeling that everyone knows each other, and if I don't know you, maybe I'm just one step from you.
Mapillary had been an idea I've had for many, many years, but the timing was never right. I felt this sort of burning need that I need to do this now. And I quit my job. I had a very nice, cushy job at a big company. I quit that and started on my own with nothing.
I love being an entrepreneur since I love to create things. I can choose whatever I want to do, when I want to do it, and how I want to do it.
For me, it's been about the ideas the whole time, and I've just had these crazy ideas that I want to see become reality.
Yeah.
And then I just started working with them. It was not that I made up my mind that I'm going to be an entrepreneur and now I'm going to go out and look for my idea, but rather the other way around, I think.
So when a company is accepted to the Mink Incubator, what we do is we take all our resources and experience and all the mentors and advisors we have, and we apply what we call the Mink model, in which we help the companies to iterate, talk to their customers, do things faster and better, smarter, more in a more safe way, and hopefully we help them succeed internationally. Malmö is a great place to live and a great place to build your startup. It's a rather small city. You can use your bike, you can ride your bike anywhere you like in the city. It's close to Copenhagen. I mean, more or less it's a metro across the bridge and you're in Copenhagen.
Life is really easy here. Getting started, starting a company, hiring people, getting office space is super easy here.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs are, especially in the beginning, quite lonely. In their role. I mean, that's one of the great things with being here at Mink is that you can feel lonely, but then there's other people feeling lonely too, and you can actually share all your feelings with them.
My contribution to the startup community in Malmö is more being an advisor, being available, helping people out with my roughly 10 years of experience of running companies.
If you're a newly started company with a great business idea and great plans, we can help you, we can support. We have a network, we have contacts, we have mentors, we have coaches working to help you succeed with your international business.
Mink to me is...
Sorry. Emma.
So we're all about connecting people, as you can see, and that's our similarity. So Media Evolution actually started up at Mink 10 years ago, and what we saw then was that what we worked with was a project as part of developing the Swedish creative industries, and we saw that we had creative industries, obviously, in a creative city like Malmö, and more obviously, we had loads of different media industries. But they weren't at all collaborating. They weren't even talking to each other. And back then, we saw that the moving, like internet was really fast moving forward. We had a changing industry. So we saw a potential of innovations in the intersection between the different media industries. And so what we did back then was that we enabled them to meet up. We saw and defined the questions where they could collaborate, but also where they had to collaborate in order to develop the new services, the new products, in the intersection between, for example, computer games or films or apps or publishing sector. So we try to connect them all. And we've been doing that for, about 10 years now. And the last couple of years, we're not talking about the media industries anymore. We're talking about the digital industries, because basically they're now part, not of different media industries, but they're all parts of a digital industry. And what we have seen the latest years is really that we have people and companies coming in, joining the community from different sectors in society. So, for example, banks and cultural organizations and so on. And we connect them too. So what we do is really to enable evolution in the intersection and in the meeting and in the collaboration between different industries. And they come to us and join as a member. And they do that because they have to. So they do that because they can't invent the new thoughts or the new ideas on their own. They need to reach out. And so we enable them to share their knowledge, to share their visions, to learn from each other, and also to develop new ideas together. And so we have created different formats for them to actually involve with their content, with their challenges, and to meet others in a good way connected to that. So the word together is really a key word for us. And also another key word for us is community. And when we talk about community, let me give you a picture of when we started up. We started up just connecting people, and then we formed a member-based organization. So they could choose to join in, and they paid a small fee to become a member, and then they sat down and they were like, okay, so what do I get for this fee now? And it was quite hard for us because, you know, when you try to provide services, you don't really know if people enjoy them or not. So what really enabled us to turn that around was to use the word community, because that made us think about their membership in a new way, but most importantly, it made them think about it in another way. Because a community is something that you join because you want to. And you are an engaged member of a community. So nowadays, people, when they pay their membership fee, they become a member of the community, and they don't ask like, so what can you do for me? They ask, how can I engage? What can I do? What can I share? How can I, what can I put in to get what I would like to get back? So it's really about giving more than you take and develop from that. And the community of now 400 different organizations is really the resource of everything we do. So here you see some of them. We have created different formats where they can meet and both learn new things from each other and innovate together, but also just, meeting up and hanging out. And we have also created, we have public funding, but last couple of years we have created a good business model connected to this so that we stand more free. So you pay a small membership fee, and then when you want to do stuff with us, you pay for that. So last year, when we counted, we have about 400 different members, that is companies, but also regions and cities and universities. And we're only 12 people working at Media Evolution. But when we counted last year, we had enabled 150 or organized 125 events, and that would be like breakfast seminars, it's workshops, it's roundtable discussions, it's conferences, it's what we in Sweden call after work, which is really like that after business hour you meet up to have a beer, but also listen to a talk and design for people to actually share their own ideas developed by on what they listen to. And we had over 20,000 participants last year, and that is of course enabled by, it's not only us working at Media Evolution who organize it. I mean, we have the formats, but then we enable the different people in the different companies in our community to add their content, to add their challenges. And so it's easy for them to join in, to be engaged, and we reach out to all of our community, we communicate what happens, and it's easy to, participate like you guys do here today. And it's also a good way of for us to stay relevant, to keep up with what people want, because it's initiated by the community, it's driven by the community, and we are very responsive to the different needs and challenges. We also have this physical place that we created 5 years ago. It's called Media Evolution City. It's a co-working space. It's also a meeting space. So we have about 100 different companies having their office here. And they have all been co-producers of the concept. So when we moved in, we already had everything rented out, which is quite unique for that kind of industry in building houses. But we weren't in that industry. We were already engaging the community that we had. And so when we asked, like, would you like to join in and sit in close connection to your competitor and pay much more than you do now for your office space, people were like, nah, I don't know, not really. But when we instead asked, like, yeah, how would you like your future work desks to look like? who would you like to have around you on an ordinary day? What services, what people, what connections, and how can we enable that? Then we got them engaged in actually co-developing this concept with us. So everyone, all of the 100 companies and the 500 people working in this house are really co-owners, and they're constantly together with us developing the space. But they're not really actually just renting an office space. They're more buying into the context. So being in this house where everyone else is and where we create loads of content together with them. We have a meeting space where both we host our events, and it has enabled us to level that up. But we also have, of course, others coming in and hosting their events. So it's really like this open space where loads of people are, and you can really turn around in the coffee line in the restaurant and just say hi and start talking to someone you've never met before. That's expected. So last week we did this yearly largest event that we do, which we basically just called the conference. And it's not really a conference. We talk about human behavior, we talk about new technologies, but we also talk about how to connect those two and make things happen. So one quote from former speakers said that this is the most human tech conference in the world, and we're really proud of that because that's what we want to achieve. So yeah, we have 50 speakers from all over the world coming in, and they're part of everyone participating in the conference. So again, trying to connect the international speakers we bring in to the local community and enable them to rethink things together. And also, apart from having that 2-day conference at that venue where we have it, we have a full week of activities where we produce masterclasses with the speakers, but we also have the companies in the region joining in with their content. So we have workshops, we have festivities, we have talks like you did at Mink.
Yeah, we actually took one of the days before the conference this year and did a pre-conference event about building startup cities. And thanks to the conference inviting a lot of really interesting speakers, we could have speakers from Iran and from China to talk about their experience on how to build startup cities and comparing that to ours. So we kind of like get into your program with our event, and we get a lot of more new people to Mink to talk about these things. So that's one way we collaborate, I guess.
And that enables us to not only have like the 2 days conference with 1,000 participants, but actually a full week of different activities with more than 3,000 participants. And so many more people doing great stuff. So we talked a lot about Malmö, and as you can see, like our heart is really in Malmö. There is something special about the city. You should definitely visit it. But what is most important to know is really that everything we do is about creating a good place to live in. Together with everyone else who would like to do that. So when we reach out and do like this international conference or being here today or everything we do with a global outlook, it's in order to actually also bring back those ideas and those connections to Malmö. So we're city developers, you could say, but not your ordinary ones. We're more about connecting people to the creative community in Malmö to enable that to grow and vice versa. So just one example, last year we had one keynote speaker at the conference who actually, after he attended, he decided to move himself and his wife and his dog and his company to Malmö because he thought that was the best place for him to start off and to develop his ideas and his thoughts. And he has been giving back to the community, of course. So that is really what we try to see, like the possibilities of what we do, not only in the context of our own organization, but actually in more local and regional context of where we are and how we can enable that place to grow and then enable many more people to grow, even if they're not part of our community and organization.
Yeah. So just an outlook. So we're going to move into like, how do we do this now? What's so special about us? But just to give you a perspective, because we can we live in Malmö, even though we're not from Malmö, so we can stand here and talk about how great Malmö is, and that's not the point, right? So just that people that come and visit and look at the system that we are building, they actually see this, that there is something really important and very different going on. That we have created this ecosystem, and that we have created like a culture of sharing, caring within this rather tough in other parts of the world startup world. So this was just a guy who actually visited, a journalist from Canada who was here last year and looked at the Malmö model from a different perspective. So how, Emma, how do we do this?
Yeah, that's the big question. So when me and Kajsa sat down, I mean, we're working in 2 different organizations. We don't meet every day, but we know each other. So when we need to collaborate, like in this case, we just sit down and do it. So it's really great for us to sit down and say like, okay, so what have we done that made all the difference? So this is our answer to you. Premiere today. Like everyone else, we started off with, of course, the infrastructural level, seeing that we have funding, we have collaborations with, for in Sweden, for example, it's really important to have like public funding, and also to engage companies, etc. So we really have an infrastructure where you can start off from. But then we have also worked a lot with building a community, as you've heard several times now, to engage companies and to really like see like why should they engage and how could they benefit from coming together. And last but not least, we have engaged the people within those companies, the people in the city, the people in the region or the universities that shares the vision with us. And it's really what things are all about.
So to start off with the infrastructure, just also here to let you know that it's not Media Evolution and Mink. We are not the only ones in the region where we are, because the innovation system in Sweden, and especially maybe in the south of Sweden, it's huge. All these round circles here represent either an incubator, a cluster, or some kind of
science park,
tech park, and this is only like within the region where we are. So it's a lot of people and a lot of organizations, and it's quite a mess if you look at it like this.
So what all of these have in common is that they have public funding in some extent.
And this was actually a Swedish newspaper who tried to map up the innovation system. So we are just like, we're up there somewhere to the right, Media Evolution and Mink. But just to let you know that we do things a little bit different than the rest of these. And we're going to try to tell you how. But this is what it looks like.
And one thing we have written down here is collaboration. And so for us, it's really important to see like, okay, so we're connected to all of these, but instead of protecting our own funds and protecting our own organization and trying to get as much money as we can to enable our growth, we have looked at how can we collaborate instead of being competitors. And that has really been a different way of working that differs us from many other organizations. So we collaborate with each other. So we collaborate with Mink, for example, when we're about to reach out to the startup community. We collaborate with an organization organizing venture capitalists when we're talking about investment, etc. So we always work in networks. And that is really our strategy that has gotten us to move forward. And we are also quite engaged in the region, helping them to enable collaboration between more of these organizations. So collaboration instead of being competitors.
And then we have the community that we are both working on a lot. And building a community has been like the core of what we have been doing since the start. And community for me is also connected to culture, because if you want to attract people to a community, you need to be very clear and you need to have a strong culture so people actually know what they are joining, because you're joining a community. So our community, like for example, to give you an example, you saw all those different kind of incubators and science parks and things like that. So we decided we wanted to have something called a startup beer, because that's what you have in startup communities around the world. And so we decided to. No, this was actually your slide. You can take. Thanks. But so we decided then to not do our own startup beer. We decided to find the best incubators in the region. So we looked in Copenhagen, and we looked in Helsingborg, and we looked in Lund, and we asked them if they wanted to do a huge startup beer activity together with us for a year. And so we actually added something more. So we together we are hosting different kind of beer nights, and we bus the entrepreneurs and the startups to different locations, so they could actually see the others. Like, how is it to be a startup in Copenhagen? How is it to be a startup in Helsingborg? And that started off a totally new way for us to work, because we got to know the people that were working in those places as well. So now we do even more collaborations, but reaching out and inviting and getting people to join, that's been very crucial for us.
So the community and the collaboration is both about our organizations collaborating and really making the best result that we can do together. And it's also, of course, about us connecting the different companies to each other and enable them to grow, to make more business or better business, or just another way of doing business. So to give you an example of a company at Media Evolution, we have a film production company called Mint, and they have been engaged as a member for quite a long time, and so it was quite natural for them to see, like, when we built this house, Media Evolution City, for them to join in and have their office space there. But they weren't really sure, like, why they did it, except from they wanted to be, like, in that context, part of that community and meeting those people that were also there hanging out every day. But it actually it turned out that they have actually doubled their turnover since they moved into Media Evolution City. And the way they did that was to be open, to talk to people when they picked up their coffee. So they are doing basically films for a young audience, teenagers. And when they met with an app developer, and he was saying, like, so why don't you, like, have you created a game, because young people really like that. You could connect that to your characters in the film, and then they could play the game, and you can, they can get more engaged with the role characters, and then they can get engaged in, developing them together with you. They were like, I've never thought about that. So that was one thing. And then they also met someone that could work with them on creating a cookbook in connection to one of their other films. And obviously also communication agencies working with Snapchat and so on. So they have really been able to develop new branches and new ways of reaching out to their audiences just by coincidence, just by being in this space where they just meet up with the people that they would never have thought of. And yeah, with a double turnover, that is really also a growth, a business result.
And the last but the most important thing is, it all comes down to the people. Some examples?
Yeah, this is to your right here. You have Natalia. She's one of the most engaged members of our community, and she started off working at a company called My News Desk, which was located in Media Evolution City. She's actually that person that turns around in a coffee line and starts talking to someone that is she would never have met before. So she's one of the persons that really enables that culture and way of behaving and working to grow. She's been on the nomination committee for our board for a very long time, and so she's connecting us to other companies in the community, in the cluster, and helping us to get them more engaged. And when she quit her job, she was recruited to another company starting up in the same building. That happens, of course. That enabled her to work more with digital strategy. Then we could engage her as a speaker at different seminars that we were doing. And when she then, after that, decided to found her own company, working on her own, she had more spare time. She could more decide over her own time, so she could participate in workshops. For example, she was participating in a workshop just the other month where she where we had a challenge connected to digital cultural development. And she came in with her ideas, and she connected with the cultural organization that we did that workshop with. And she has now a role as forming their digital strategy. But of course, she wouldn't have known when she first got engaged, and that was not the reason why she was engaged. She just wanted, again, to make like where she worked and the community a better place. And it turned out that she could get more business out of it on a longer term.
So back to Jan-Erik, you saw him in the film before, and he's one of our best ambassadors. So we try to find ambassadors. We are really looking, and we've been doing that since the start. So we didn't have much to talk about when we started, but we knew that if we find the right people who are like making success stories and we talk about them, then the word will spread about us. So that's how we've been working all along, trying to find the right people. And also for us, it's been really, really important to build a new ecosystem. Coming from Malmö, there was no business angels, there were no investors, and there were no startup scene at all. So we had to start building that ecosystem of startups and exits and reinvestments. And Jan-Erik is a really good example of that. He moved in also straight out of university, actually, doing research on biometric face recognition. He built his company, who's called Polarose, in a very successful way. He found his funding, and then all of a sudden they were acquired by Apple 3 years later. That meant that the whole company just like closed down, left Malmö, left Sweden, and were going to San Francisco. The whole team. And then we were just like, oh, is this what we're going to do? Feed up entrepreneurs, and then they're going to take the competence and the people and move to Silicon Valley. But what we can see now, when you look at it over time, is that, so Jan-Erik spent 4 years at Apple. He learned a lot. He made a lot of money on the exit. And now he just moved back. So he got tired of the life in Silicon Valley, and moved back, founded his second startup. It's now called Mapillary. They're doing crowd-sourced mapping, competing with Google. And so he comes back to Malmö, started his second company. He comes with all his competence. He's a great mentor for other young entrepreneurs today, but he's also a business angel because he does a lot of investments in the new companies at Mink. So now we are starting to see that this is all coming together. If you really get the people to like what you're doing, and if you get them to be engaged, they are the best ambassadors you can ever have. And we have some more examples of this. But Jan-Erik, I think, he's also because this next thing that he's doing, it's going to be the next big thing. I think he's a super entrepreneur and one of the smartest people in the world, I would say. So it comes back to the people. I think for us, building Mink, they have been the most important, especially when the building in the beginning was quite empty, and we got a lot of critique about, not doing the right thing. It was so important for us to find the right people within other creative spaces, within the tech scene, and in the community around us. So the secret sauce.
Yeah, to sum up really what it's all about.
This is the last one.
And I mean, both me and Kajsa, we're working with this every day. So sometimes it's good when you have the reason to just move up and say like, so what is it we do that enables all of this to work?
And transparency has been a key word for Mink since we started. We knew we had to be different, and also being a publicly funded company from the municipality. I mean, it's not very credibility. It's not a lot of credibility among entrepreneurs. So we knew we had to be really transparent. So the way we built our organization is very transparent, and also everything we do is like open sourced, and we share everything we do. There is no like secrets within our organization, and we took it so far that we actually built it into the building that we renovated when we moved in. So there are no, you can see into all the rooms, you can see everything that goes on. And where we work, we're a small staff as well, we're 8 people. We work in open space, outside the only coffee machine in the building, just to let people actually see us. So the transparency has been like a key to the way we've been developing Mink.
And the transparency is not only in the way that we share everything we think and do, it's also actually in the building. So if you go into Media Evolution City, all the walls are glass. So you can see everything that is going on. So if you choose to sit in that building, you're just transparent by nature. And also what we have found out is that, of course, we have doors. They're also glass doors. And you could think that if you have a room, you would like to close the door so you can be alone. But actually what happens is that when people aren't there, they will close the doors and lock them. But when they're there, they will open up the doors because it's just a really natural way of working.
And then the flexibility. It's also a way of building your organization. Since we don't know about the future, the only thing we know about the future right now in the business we are in is that it will change. And we have no idea how. That means we have to be very flexible. So keeping the organization very, very small has been important for us, and to be able to work network-based. So we try to find the expert within different areas, because we are not the experts. Then we shouldn't be doing this. You have to find the people who are the best at metrics, or the best people at knowing what international investors to target. So network-based and being very flexible. And it's also being, in our case, we have built it into the way we build our programs. So looking for the need, talking to the people, the entrepreneurs, and then create the programs that are needed, that they are asking for. In that way, we are also being very flexible.
And it's about working from the needs of the users in your community, and to be very responsive to those needs. So we have built our organization to be as flexible as we can. We have built it to just be in constant change, and to be responsive to whatever needs there are, and to listen to those, and have time to listen to those, but also have time to create the concepts and formats, or rebuild, or whatever is needed to actually be able to change according to the needs. Because we are in a very fast-moving industry, so everything we know is that everything will just change tomorrow. We have no idea what it is. So it's just a way of organizing to be able to work from that.
Yeah, and then the engagement, the most important thing of all. And it's about also, again, how you build your organization. Find people that are being engaged and that can actually, kind of live the way they work and engage in the different programs, in other people. But it's also to find these ambassadors that are willing to give back a lot.
And the only way to engage others is to be engaged yourself, right? So we are very passionate about what we do. And the day we wouldn't be engaged for the task we're doing, or the day we couldn't share that vision with others, then we should do something else. So it really needs, if you're working with constant development and engaging others, you need to start with yourself. To be engaged in your task and what you do, and to really believe in everything is possible. And to sum up like this in just one word, it's all about trust. So we're basically in the trust business. So we have built trust by relationship, by networking, by collaboration, and everything we do during all of these years. And that's how we actually can enable things and people to move forward together.
Så hej då, that means bye. Goodbye in Swedish. And really feel free to reach out. We are both on Twitter and everywhere, and look into the websites. And also please ask questions. I'm sure you have some questions that we maybe can answer. We'll try our best. Thank you so much for having us here.
Дорогие друзья, если у вас есть вопросы, поднимайте руки, мы дадим вам микрофон.
O Boże.
What is a startup, and what is the difference between a startup and entrepreneurship? For example, opening a cafe.
Yeah. There is a definition that we use. I'm sure there are different ones, but scaled up very quickly with an investment. So it doesn't grow organically. Like as an entrepreneur, you can start a company and you can start selling or producing, but that's not a startup. So that's the definition we are using. So entrepreneurs are everybody who starts a company, and a startup is a fast-growing web, internet-based company.
Thank you.
Hello. Can you give us an advice based on your experience how to make Moscow just a little bit as amazing as Malmö is? Moscow is a really big city, but maybe we can do something to change it.
I think you're starting very well off here, just being here. But, well, you know, one thing that comes to my mind here, like 14 years later, because it's not been very easy, but because it's about redesigning and it's about rethinking and then getting other people to understand, and people that are not maybe in the same mindset as you. That means politicians and the people with a lot of money. You have to really work hard to get them to understand, and that takes time. So one thing is just like make a plan, have a very clear vision, because that's what we've been having. And it's been much broader than just creating Mink. It's been all about creating a better environment, creating a better city. What kind of city would we like to live in? So have a very broad and clear vision and find the right people to start this. It's kind of like a movement, I would say.
Yeah. To be sure what you want to enable, like why you're doing this, and get people on that vision. But I think also, like when it comes down to larger cities, I mean, Malmö is the third largest city in Sweden, but it's a fairly small city compared to Moscow. And what it comes down to, I think, is also to focus. I mean, you can't do everything, so you really need to define, like, so what area can we start off with, and how can we enable things to grow from that? So it could be like starting off with defining a sector, but you have like the why is really like a much larger vision, a much larger goal. And if you can connect those two to enable that to scale up and let it take time and get people engaged and committed, get the good people with you from the start, the people you need, but also not only like when it comes to finance, but also when it comes to commitment, and the people that have connections on their own that can get other people on board.
Hello, I'm here. Thank you. Thank you for your time, and I have a question. Can you please say a few words about the real problem that you faced? I mean, it seems like it's been easy for you to do all this stuff, but I'm sure it hasn't.
No.
Right, thank you. Will you say something?
Yeah, because that's what I mean, that it's quite easy to stand here now and talk to you about how well it works. But the funding that's been for us has been a problem, because we had, to start with, we had the funding for 3 years from the municipality, and after 3 years we did not show any great results. So we had a big problem bridging that, getting more money to actually survive. So money has been an issue. Today, when we have we can show that we have a lot of new jobs created and we have a lot of new companies created. The money issue is not an issue anymore. Other things is like when you're doing things in a new way, like it's quite hard to get people to understand what it is you are doing. And sometimes I would say in our case, we work in different ways here, but like how we did it was actually to lay really low in the beginning, not so to brag about, not to go out and talk a lot about what we were doing, because we knew we had a really strong vision about what we wanted. So we just connected with a few very important people, and then we kind of got under the radar from everybody else. Like not a lot of media, just try to build the foundation from where we have been growing.
Raz.
Yes.
Was it from the government? I mean, all the money, no crowdfunding, no...
No, that didn't exist 14 years ago. That's one of the things why you have to be flexible.
But we actually...
So how did you pitch it?
One of the things that we have done is really to... we were built on public funding, and we were driven like we had these big EU-funded projects, and was like large scale up. And then when the EU project was, ending, we didn't really have a plan. So we were actually about to, see. It was about like, okay, either we find just another model, like financing model, or we just, we have to end what we're doing basically. So what we did then, and what I've been working with since then, is really to find a model that is, you could say crowdfunded, but it's a business-driven model. So where we can do things that the members can pay for when we do them, and we have some income from the member fee, but most income from what we do.
So it's a sustainable business model that you have
exactly.
worked. Yeah.
So, and we're not reliant on public funding, which makes us much more sustainable for a long term.
I'm sorry, can I ask one more question? Does it work now? I mean, the business model.
Yeah, it works actually very good now. So it's something that we have in 3 years' time built up, and now it's working good. It can be developed, of course. We're always trying out like what role can we take and what role should we take. But we don't have now. I think like about 10% of our turnover is public funding, and before it was 100%.
Just a very concrete thing here. That I remember one thing we did that was really important was to create a really good advisory board around us, and that's also about people, right? So finding really, people are often very flattered if you say that, oh, you're one of the smartest people I know. Can you please just give me some advice around this? And so we invited a lot of people to advisory boards and sat down with them like maybe 6 times a year, and they could give us a lot of feedback. And they were like more experienced entrepreneurs, and there were also some people from the municipalities and politics. They didn't have any veto, but they were connected to us as advisors, and that was a really good thing because they were like the first network that we built.
Just one.
When we started, 2002, 14 years ago. Yeah.
And we started in 2004.
Вопрос.
But I also have to say, like every day we have to remake what we do. Every day we have to engage the people again. So it's you have to be committed every day to make things work.
Hello. I would like to ask you about your possibilities for international collaboration. For example, for example, me and my partners want to create a business incubator for creative industries. So what could be your offer for this international collaboration? Can we think of some common programs? Do you have some experience in such field?
Yeah, we do, but it's been about people coming to Mink to learn our model of business development. We have created our own business model for business development in new companies. But we also have a lot of collaborations with other workspaces. That means that, so we have like a benchmarking program with companies, with places in New York, San Francisco, Barcelona, London.
So it's not just you, not just in you.
No. It's also in the US. And we have also worked with Hong Kong, but nothing here, though. And we did try out a very specific thing together with companies from Lithuania, because they had an accelerator program and they wanted to reach out to the Nordic ventures, to the investors. So we did like an international program for them. They could 5 companies that were selected by the Lithuanian incubator, and they came to Mink and stayed there for 5 months and worked from our place, and we connected them to the right investors. And actually, it was only one of them who got funding, but it was something we tried out.
All right, thank
We're
you.
open,
And
if you have any suggestions.
Yeah, and I think like we're working a lot with international collaborations, project based, and then also we have loads of study visits coming to see the way we work and how we have designed the different solutions. So that's also a way of starting out and seeing like connections.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Anton. I represent Begin Group company. We hold education fairs in Russia and in CIS countries, also in India. And we're interested in inviting universities from Sweden and from Denmark to participate in our fairs. And I just want to ask you, could you tell us more about your cooperation with the universities in Sweden? So what they are interested in, maybe in like international collaboration and in students from abroad and so on and so on.
I think that depends on what university you talk about, but mainly they work a lot with international collaborations, and I think what university you would choose to connect with is of course come down to like what are your aims, what is your kind of business, and where do they have that competence. So, for example, Malmö University is a quite new university. They have new educations that don't exist anywhere else. For example, interaction design, user experience design, they're quite innovative with. So I think like you could connect with us, and we could see like what would be a good person to talk to. Again, it's all about the people, right?
It's so many different setups in the different universities. So I think we would have to know what educations you are and what kind of students you are looking for. But please connect us, and we'll try to help you further.
Hello, thank you for your talk, and I have a question about the conference, the event. You mentioned that it's been an innovative conference combining human aspects and the innovations. I wanted to know more about it. How did you set it on, maybe in more detail?
I can talk a lot about that, but to give you a brief idea, so we've been developing this conference for quite many years. In this format, it's been existing for 6 years, and we have created it as the way we do everything else we do. So we think about the user's experience. So connecting like the inspirational talks and really have a good curation about how they are connected to each other. We find speakers that aren't there as a representative of a brand. Actually, if you look at the conference program this year, no one was famous. So we think about like what topics do we need to talk about, and who can talk about those topics. So we both have keynote speakers that speak alone, and we also have breakout sessions where we have 3 different speakers giving different perspectives on the same subject. And what that has enabled for us is also to be a totally equal conference. So we have 50% male speakers, 50% female speakers, which you also have seen matches with the participants. So when we raise the female speakers, we raise the female participation. So there are so many things to say about how you think about like human interaction and to design for how you experience a conference. But we also think a lot about how you get connected to each other, of course, and what you do like in the rooms in between the talks. And we encourage people, like when you're at the conference, sometimes you don't want to sit and listen all day. So we encourage people to take care of your own experience. So you can sit work, we have work desks, you can do activities like go into different boxes and find out new stuff there, or you can meet with a person, you could hear an interview in between or whatever. So it's basically up to you to design your own experience and to take care of that. And we try to help you in the ways that we can, in the best ways we can. I'd also like to encourage you all to go into theconference.se, where we have all the talks for free online.
Yeah, and as a participant, I'm not working at all with the conference, but I have been participating all the years. And it's a very well-designed week. So I would say it's the small details. Of course, it's a good speakers and a lot of really good people, but it's like so well-designed from when you sign up till you actually say, hey då. It's like so well-designed. I think that's a big difference compared to other conferences.
Yeah. Thank you. And another question, maybe more global. For example, you said that it's your first time in Russia, but maybe you had some general ideas about how the business and startups and entrepreneurship functioning. Maybe not, but for example, it's my personal idea, but I think that now in Russia we don't need to build resources. We have so many resources existing, obviously, and we have this disconnection between the government proposing us many programs and young people creating themselves after-works meetings. And then we have a design cluster who are developing their own startups separately. So everything is disconnected. So my question is, for example, if you would have been placed here now and making Moscow your project and developing Moscow an innovative city, and considering that Moscow it's maybe like 40 Malmö, what would you start with?
Oh yeah, that's how do you do that? I would start with connecting the dots. You know, it's about seeing what can we connect. Where are the dots here, and how can we connect them? Is there any similarities? What can we gain from starting a collaboration? But again, I have never worked in this context and this size, so maybe you should not connect all the dots here. Maybe that is just a waste of time. It's really hard to totally translate this form, but the methods that we use and work with, it's about connecting and finding like new ways for collaboration to make things bigger and to make it, for us being quite small, and I think like here, you're at one size and then there are like another place cluster this size. So what could you do together? Could you together do something international? Like if you are, do you know what I mean? So trying to connect the existing clusters is what I would start with. Understand and connect the dots and see what comes out of that. Do you have any ideas, Emma?
I think I like finding the questions where you need to collaborate with others. Because sometimes when you talk about networking, I've been working a lot with different network initiatives, and sometimes you, for example, in Sweden, you could put organizations into a network and say that they should collaborate because they have the same funding. That's the lousiest idea ever, because they would be competitors of the same funding, and they would have like, no, I'm doing this in a much better way. So what you would need to find, like the dots you should combine, is really the dots that need to be connected in order to move something forward that you can't do on your own. So and those complex challenges is really what can drive, and you have an aim of doing it, the passion.
And to put the little word why before you start doing this, like, okay, why should we do this? We do that in everything we do now when we have strategy meetings and think, okay, why do we do this? Why? It's really important, because then you know where to start.
Thank you very much.
Добрый вечер, меня зовут Андрей.
Wait.
Добрый вечер. Как я понял, обе ваши компании занимаются услугами, которые частично пересекаются, даже во многом пересекаются. В то же время Минк оказывает их бесплатно, а Media Evolution на платной основе, на условии членских взносов. Почему некоторые предприниматели, стартаперы выбирают Media Evolution, а не Минк? Как в этом смысле вы взаимодействуете и конкурируете?
That's a good question. Thank you.
Yeah, so we overlap each other. So if you would say like the simple way of saying is that you would start up at Mink, and then when you're ready to fly, you could move into Media Evolution City, or and anytime you would like, you could be part of that cluster and that community.
We're also much, in a sense, we are much broader because we do work totally cross-sectoral. We can work with biotech, with tech companies that are just in need for some help in the very few first months. Also, I would say that Mink is not a place, the whole concept of Mink, it's not a place where you stay. It's not a place, it's a place where you start. It's very like, what do you say? It's not comfortable. It's too transparent. It's too open. It's too bad furniture for you. It's not very exclusive at all. So after 1 year, we have actually built in that we want people to leave. They should just get the first people they should connect with should probably at Mink, and then there are other clusters, other places, science parks, or places where they can go to. So we are like the very first of your entrepreneurial journey. That's where we want to be.
And when it comes down to, as you were asking also about the fees, so everything we both do is open and free, except for the conference and those kind of events. But there is always someone paying for it. So for Media Evolution, we have found a model where our members that wants to share knowledge, they pay for us putting up the seminar or the event and communicating it and designing it, etc. But the ones that are participating can participate for free. And in Mink's case, it's either the ones who choose to arrange an event on their open arena, or if you arrange an event, you have the public funding, for arranging events. So it's a different business model. But I think the example also, when I was talking about the conference week and that Mink was hosting one of the events there, Media Evolution would and should and could never do that event. So it's Mink who is driving the startup scene, talking about entrepreneurship, connecting people to that. And we're talking about digitization, creative development, and sometimes we can enable each other to move forward in connection to that.
Okay, I think we're done. Yes.
Yes. Дорогие друзья, к сожалению, время для вопросов закончилось. Если вы хотите пообщаться со спикерами, вы можете подойти и задать свои вопросы лично. Если вы брали дождевики, пожалуйста, оставьте их на первом ряду амфитеатра. Они еще всем нам пригодятся на следующих лекциях. Спасибо.